America. Now, Donald Trump has been blocked from running for president in the state of Maine by their top election official over his actions leading to the 2021 Capitol riots.
Maine now follows Colorado in barring the former president from the ballot, citing a constitutional amendment which prohibits those engaged in insurrection from holding office. Trump has already vowed to lodge an appeal, but this is no doubt another major twist in a crazy decade of American politics. Yes. Political commentator Benedict Spence is still with us, and joining us in the studio is Greg Swenson, the chair of Republicans Overseas UK. Welcome to you. Thank you very much indeed, Greg, for joining us, and Benedict for still being here. So, look, American politics never ceases to amaze in terms of how amazing it is. In terms of what Donald Trump has said, he said in the past, every time they criticise me, every time they indict me, every time they take me to court, this is a victory for me because this is showing that the state, the blob, goes after me. But a second state doing this, surely this is now a roadblock.
I don't think it will be. And he's got a point. Every time he's indicted, every time his home is raided, his numbers go up. The mugshot was probably the best of all. You know, he raised $7 million the morning it was released. So, you know, the president benefits from these attacks from the left. You know, there might be some tactical, speed bumps ahead. Maine is not a particularly significant state because of its small populations. Colorado, a little larger, maybe some more electoral votes there. But these are just demonstrations that the Democrats will do whatever it takes, by whatever means necessary, to defeat President Trump, and that ends up helping him.
You see, there will be people who've read about what he said on the way to that insurrection at the Capitol, right at the heart of democracy, and saying it is. I think a lot of people find it quite difficult to understand how he can carry on standing, and how his voting coterie just keeps on growing when they say, right, we can't have somebody like this standing for president.
Well, I think a lot of voters have decided that. And I think January 6th obviously was a very bad day for America, but a bad day for President Trump. And his numbers went down after that. If you look at what he's done, and you can argue his behavior was disgraceful that day for sure. And I think there's plenty of people who will not vote for him because of it. There might be other reasons not to vote for him, but that's a big one. But that doesn't mean it was an insurrection, first of all. I mean, half the country says it's an insurrection, the other half says it was a mostly peaceful protest, to borrow a phrase from the left. But it's the indictments that have elevated his numbers. He had faded quite dramatically. In the summer of 22, this is before the midterms when, Governor DeSantis had a great midterm reelection. Prior to that, Trump was up 9 points over DeSantis. They raided Mar-a-Lago. The next week, he's up 39. And then he faded, and again, Jan 6 is in a lot of memories, right? So people think about it. But then when you started with that, kind of that absurd January 6th committee that actually ended up helping Trump in spite of their efforts. And then, of course, you had the indictments. But prior to the indictments in March of this year, Trump was up slightly over DeSantis. There were virtual ties. CNN had DeSantis up 2 points over Trump. Alvin Bragg indicts. Then you had 3 more indictments. Now Trump's up 50 points.
It's fascinating when you have a look at those the poll ratings, because Trump is incredibly difficult. Doesn't matter whether you like him or not, he's incredibly difficult to beat politically. He's extremely strong. And there is no doubt that you have a look at any of the polls, he's the guy who's going to be selected as the Republican candidate. So we'll see how those court cases go. On the Democrat side, there are a lot of people wringing their hands. Why have we got an octogenarian who is unable to string a sentence together, who seems not to be able to push his policies through? And is that the best they've got?
The answer is no. And 75% of Americans don't want to see Trump v. Biden again. And that's what's really interesting about the way the process works. It's really, it's up to the Republican Party voters. And yes, they're supporting Trump now for sure. Again, thanks to the indictments, you can even argue that the Democrats want Trump to be the opponent. And that's why, believe me, if they thought that these indictments were hurting him in the nomination process, they wouldn't have gone through with them. So the indictments and the mugshot are elevating Trump. They want him to be the candidate. The question is, does that strategy backfire because it's now looking like he's favored over Biden in the general election. So this is a disaster for both parties. The party that chooses a different candidate is the party that's going to win here. Biden's the only one who can lose to Trump. Trump's the only one who can lose to Biden. If a generic Democrat beats Trump, a generic Republican easily beats Biden, because it's a referendum on his absolute failure of a presidency. So,
Benedict, when you're listening to this and you're thinking about, mostly you're reporting on politics this side of the Atlantic, do you wish that you were over there reporting on that?
I mean, it's phenomenally entertaining, if nothing else.
It really is.
Perhaps it wouldn't be if it was my country, but yeah, it's. And to see it all being replayed again, you know, we had this experience the first time around when Donald Trump won. Everybody saying, actually, what the Democrats want is for Donald Trump to be the candidate because Hillary will easily knock him over, and of course, it worked out really, really well. And I agree actually. If only either party could find it within themselves to put one of the many pretty bland other people forward. Be it Gavin Newsom, be it Ron DeSantis, be it Nikki Haley, whoever, you have a fantastic chance of walking into the White House. But neither party wants to do that. It's like they really like inflicting a lot of pain on themselves. And it's almost like they like the charade, they like the circus, because it gets everybody going, it riles up the bases. Whereas, you know, Ron DeSantis, as good a governor of Florida as he isn't inspiring a lot of people, and neither is Gavin Newsom in California. So you can understand why people who are really, you know, into their politics, actually this is the fight that they want. It's dirty, it's incompetent, it's sleazy, but it's what gets them going. Actual functioning politics, ain't nobody got
It's like mud wrestling.
It is like mud wrestling and mudslinging, but we have to bring something into this because this is another little sort of nuance that, because we're dealing with Trump, who is he a businessman? Is he a sort of media mogul? Is he somebody who's made huge amounts of money? Well, all of those things, but also he was a movie star. So Trump has denied bullying his way into Home Alone 2. I think we've got the clip. I think we should take a look. Let's remind ourselves of the 1992 classic.
Excuse me, where's the lobby?
Down the hall and to the left.
Thanks.
Is that it? Sorry, I've never seen Home Alone or Home Alone 2. Is that it?
I mean, I don't actually mind that whether it was in the clause or not. I mean, if you're lending a film crew your hotel that you own, why the heck shouldn't you have a little cameo role? And I think he did all right at it. It's funny.
Of course. And look, remember, Trump was a reality TV star. I mean, he's yes, people know him as a real estate developer, but you know, prior to the 2016 election, his most recent notoriety was from being on a, you know, having his own reality TV show.
Yeah, of
The
course.
Apprentice.
The Apprentice, which is the US version.
What is wasn't it the original?
The original version that I did the.
I know you did the Apprentice.
Yes, I did that,
Was the original version?
The original one was
here?
the America.
Oh, right, that's right.
And of course, Piers Morgan, our colleague, won the celebrity version, which he was notably fired over here by Sugar, and of course announced the winner by Donald Trump.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
He was also in Sex and the City, if you're interested. I don't think he had a line,
Not
but
Mr.
he was
Big.
in it. No, in the pilot episode that didn't go to air.
Okay. Sorry, it sounds like Reservoir Dogs, doesn't it? Was there anybody called Mr. Dig, Mr. Pink, Mr. Everything else?
Well, that's a whole different
He's Mr.
vignette.
Orange.
Mr. Orange.
Mr. Orange. Well, a brand new
Orange
character.
and white.
So, I mean, look, I guess one has to conclude. He's the ultimate sort of personality. He's been in movies, he's been on the telly, he's extremely well known, and this is one of the reasons. And I know that it might sound like frippery when we talk about, you know, a row over Home Alone 2, one of, you know, the great sequels that did actually work. But we're also talking about somebody who is so well known and so popular that when you talk about replacing him, it's an impossibility until he decides that he doesn't want to run for that role.
Which he would never do. You know, he wouldn't bring himself to actually choosing what's better for the country instead of what's better
he doesn't care about that.
President Trump. But I think, you know, as I said earlier, what you saw prior to the indictments was Governor DeSantis doing really well, and his message was getting out there. He crushed it in the midterms in 2022. But the indictments, and this is the Democrats claiming to try to save democracy by violating the democratic norms that we all live by, like letting the voters vote. And that's what they should do in these two states.
Greg, thank you very much.
Good
Greg
to be here.
Swenson,
Thanks.
thank you very much.